Welcome to my channel. Today's tutorial, we are going to mix and match our supplies, combine them to make our focal image unique. So I am starting with this collage paper. This is done on twisted paper from eons ago, and I'll link that video where I created this collage paper. Now there's lots of wrinkles in here, so it's going to add a lot of texture to the background, and I've done some stenciling and stamping on here ahead of time. And since I'm going with the whole nautical theme, I thought that it worked really well. So I am applying a good generous amount of gel medium because this paper is a little thicker and I just find that it's necessary, and I'm pressing it down, trying to keep the wrinkles in there. I want that texture on the background. Now for this collage paper, I just did the stamping and stenciling with black because I wasn't sure what color background. This gives me the option. So once this is completely dry, and you've just seen me give it a coat of the matte medium on top, once it's completely dry, I will come back and colorize it. Meanwhile, I'm also going to prepare the focal images. And I have 2 napkins, both from NINNYSNAPKINS.com. There's a link in the description box and a coupon code. I cut out the lighthouse and the ship that I want, and I peeled off the excess layers. And then I'm gluing this on with fluid matte medium onto a piece of recycled copy paper. The reason for this is I am going to glue this down, this focal image down, onto a background that is going to be colorized. And where it's white, I don't want to see the blue from the ocean or whatever my background is. I've done a couple of the lighthouses. I'm just going to fill the page at this time, and then whatever I don't use on this page just goes in my stash and it's at the ready, giving me a jump start for my next project. If you get in the habit of doing that, you'll find that you will save time and you will have stuff in your stash. So I'm just giving it a coat of the fluid matte medium on top. And what that does is it makes it a non-porous surface. So when I paint it, it won't just absorb into the paper. I'm picking out some aquas, some different blues and greens. I'm not sure exactly what I'm using. I end up using Hooker's green, which is the green at the bottom, and Prussian blue. And when I start mixing that wet on wet right on top of my background, I'm really liking the tones that I get. So that is where I've stuck with it. But play with your greens and your blues. Add a little bit of yellow in there, and you'll find that you'll get different tones that you like. Now you can see the lovely texture from that twisted paper. What I want this to be, I want the lighthouse to sit on land, and the rest I want to resemble ocean. So I want movement. We've got kind of that nautical stamp in there. There's some stenciling. And as I add more layers, what is right here is going to get pushed back. But you're going to see all these interesting bits peeking through in different ways, and that's really what mixed media and art journaling is. Now I've taken some it's not black, Payne's gray, and I'm put it on my blending foam, and I'm rubbing it over top lightly where the texture is to bring out that texture. If you're using something with texture, you want it to be seen or to peek out a little bit. And then I'm just edging with that Payne's gray as well, since I've got the blending foam all out and the paint all out. And you can see how easy it was to colorize that. I love how the red of this lighthouse works against the background. That blue one wouldn't. But before I glue my focal images on, I want to add a little more movement in there. So I grabbed this stencil from the Crafter's Workshop. It's called Waves. And I'm stenciling with white paint. Now, if you're thinking, oh, you really lost a lot of your background, I am going to be wiping this back a little bit. And I can do that because it's all acrylic paint and it's all permanent. I'm not going to upset the balance. So when we create the background or anything, it's a give and take. You add, you take away. You add, you take away. I like the movement that has made. And as you can see, some of that stamping and stenciling that was on that collage paper has been very much pushed back. In real life, it shows up a lot more. Here I'm just adding, again, we're adding a little bit of blue, adding a little bit of green, toning down the white, just finding that balance. Keep going till I am completely happy. Just adding a little bit of that blue, green to here to make it meld together. I really wanted this on the right side, but the ship, it just didn't look quite right. And I'm playing with the sentiment from my Courage sentiment pack. I don't end up using the one you're looking at right now, but I do end up using one from that Courage sentiment pack. So if you're interested in sentiments to use in your art journal mixed media pieces, please go and check out my digital downloads at NINNYSNAPKINS.com. I remembered that I had this lighthouse stencil, again from Crafter's Workshop. Now it had a lighthouse, but I wanted to use the napkin one. But I liked the gold. I wanted the gold, the light coming from the lighthouse. I'm masking off areas that I don't want the stencil butter to go in. This is champagne gold stencil butter from the Crafter's Workshop. Works just like modeling paste. Adds texture, and this one adds the shine. It made the world of difference. Adding this yellow to my background really worked well. The moment of truth, when you pull it up, how did it work? Loving it. We have texture, we have shine. I cut apart my sentiment and I put it down at the bottom, and now I'm going to glue my lighthouse down into the middle of the stenciling that I did. So you can see how I'm mixing and matching combining the stencil with my focal image, in my case a napkin. I'm using matte gel medium here, but there's a lot of texture on that page and my images have been glued onto paper. So you need something a little stronger than the fluid medium. But the fluid will work. It just may take a little while to get it going. This sentiment says, a ship at harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are for. Here I'm taking some white paint and I am brightening the sails. I want them to be, that focal image to stand out a little bit more. It just looked a little bit dull, so I'm changing it. Making it blacker where there's black, there's some burnt sienna on it. Just tweaking the colors. I'm perfectly happy with the colors on the lighthouse. They're bright and bold enough, they stand up. Here I'm adding some shading using my floating acrylic shading technique. I'm shading the light coming from the lighthouse on the top and the bottom of the gold on the lighthouse, as well as edging the page with black acrylic paint, or a combination of Payne's gray and black. I add some, then I add more if I need it. Remember, I want my focal image to stand out, and shading is one of the ways that we can make that happen. So here I'm going underneath the light, trying hard not to get the black on top of the gold. I just want it underneath so the gold pops all the more. I've been struggling lately with my art, overthinking things. This page was such a joy. It just went smoothly from beginning to end. So maybe I got my mojo back. What do you do when the wheels fall off and it's hard to create? I just kept showing up, hoping that sooner or later things would happen. Some of the ropes had disappeared, so I'm just adding the lines back in with my charcoal pencil. I really like that lighthouse and the use of the stencil with it. I think that would make a nice card just there with the sentiment, maybe "Be the light." Have to look for a good lighthouse quote. Taking off the paint, and there we have it. Decide that I want to splatter with some gold, introduce the gold from that I used in the stencil butter to the rest of the page. So take a look at your napkins, take a look at your focal images and your stencils. Can you combine them? Can you work them together? Thanks so much for joining me. Close-ups of the pictures are following. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, click on the bell, and until next time, go get creative.